Welcome to Positive Outcomes, where leaders turn hard-won experience into income, impact, and freedom.
Hello, everyone. You are all welcome again to Positive Outcome. We are here with another amazing episode of Positive Outcome. And this is where professionals, leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs come to turn their expertise into impact, income, and freedom. And of course, this is your host, Dr. Dorine. So it's not about me again. Let's talk about our guest for today's episode, okay? Today's guest's name is Mike. Mike is director of SKU Lifecycle and Optimization at Advanced Auto Parts. I have seen that in the streets. I have seen it on the roads, but we're going to hear more about Advanced Auto Parts today, guys. With nearly a decade of experience leading product cycle management and inventory optimization, Mike brings a wealth of insight into how organizations can streamline operations and maximize impact. Beyond his corporate role, Mike is also an entrepreneur operating a multi-unit cafe business that keeps him connected to customer experience in a whole different way. I love that. Mike, you are welcome to Positive Outcomes.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share my experiences with you all, and hopefully you gain something from it.
I know we will. I am sure we will, Mike. To get started, please walk us back. How did you first get into inventory management and product life cycle?
Yeah, so not exactly a pretty journey. It's by accident. I think a lot of people find their passion or career by accident. So I had a really great opportunity as a young adult, probably in my early teens, to run my family's cafe business. And I really got to learn what it took to be a business owner, what was important, and how do you prioritize things, and to act with speed. So I had the opportunity to really build that business over, a 3 to 5 year span. I had the opportunity to go to college. I went to North Carolina State University. I wanted to get a business degree. I focused in supply chain. I thought that's where I really found my passion through small business. It was the operations of things, how things work. So after completing 4 years in college, I came back to my family businesses, tried to apply everything I learned, and was able to grow that. And eventually, the time it came to move on. I was ready to kind of start another journey, one that was, call it my own, if you will. So my now wife was living in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we were doing well. And I needed to be in Raleigh, right, to make things work. I worked in a rental car for a short period of time and learned a lot. Learned a lot about sales, learned about a lot more about customers. And then I had an opportunity to go work for a franchisee running their food service business. So I got to take something from, my past, if you will, and apply it to my now future. And that's kind of my journey leading up to auto parts. I grew,
Wow.
call it tired of food service, if you will, and wanted something more. And I kind of just needed a job. And I had a friend that worked at Advanced Auto Parts, and he was able to get me in front of the right person. And I was able to interview with them and share my experiences. And, it just went from there. But I'd like to
Wow.
take a moment and just kind of share something that's probably really important to a lot of people as they either think about their careers or they're thinking about a change, is when I came to Advance, I didn't really care what I did. I just wanted the opportunity, and I was willing to bet on myself and my experiences to get me to wherever I wanted to be. So I may have taken a job at the time that I think we hear this constantly in today's environment is, oh, you're overqualified. Well, what does that mean? Overqualified is, right, that's an opinion. I'm in front of you because I want to do this. And I took
Wow.
took a job that I didn't really know anything about, but I was betting on myself. And over the last 9 years, I've had the opportunity to work my way up through inventory, project management, merchandising to where I am today. So that's what brings me to my current role today as director of lifecycle management. As of this week, I now have a new role, which is catalog and support. I've been very fortunate in my career and having a employer that's given me lots of opportunities. But it all started because I was willing to bet on myself. And I knew that through hard work and the experiences that I already had, I could get to where I
Right.
wanted to go.
Amazing. Oh my God. That is amazing. I took my glasses off because the story is amazing. I was writing down stuff. This is a true journey of like I always say, leadership sometimes starts at home. And for the parents that are here listening to us, what are you teaching your kids? I love the fact that he was able to navigate his lessons that he learned from his parents' home, but now he went through with it and started his own business, came back and helped, but he used the lessons learned in corporate America, right? And he said something that when he went to apply for a job, he didn't even have to like what he wanted to do. He just wanted to go in there, learn, and be coachable and teachable. I'm adding that because I can tell that he's very coachable. He was able to go in there and learn, and now he has earned director role. So I really want us to pause for a moment and think about where we are right now. You just have to start somewhere and you might not like it, but that is really part of your journey. Michael, that is amazing. Thank you so very much for saying from family to cafe, then you came back and then now you're a director. So you have worked across industries, right? Like food service and printing before joining Autopaths.
Yes.
How did all of these experiences, how did they shape the way that you see supply chain optimization?
Yeah, so it's really funny. I have very fortunate that I get to pull a lot of my experiences and apply them to things that I do every day. Things that might seem really simple. So, just a couple weeks ago, we were working on a project for a very large supply chain rollout. We're trying to figure out how to make it easier. How do we make it easier to execute? And I got to pull from my printing background, and we were able to generate something as simple as placards so that every distribution center could have an own custom placard for every single order. So it was thousands of unique placards that, as I look around my team and my peer group, nobody knew how to do that. So, I think you said something really important. And my dad also told me this. It's the journey of
Yep.
where you want to be, right?
Yes.
That's the end of it, or that's where you want to go. You always don't need to know where you want to go, but to enjoy the journey, learn as much as you can, and help and teach and coach as many people on that journey.
Yep.
I've been a people leader for 20 years. I've had to lead
Wow.
people younger than me, older than me, the same age as me. I've had people that I worked with as their equal or even as their direct. And then I've been fortunate to, hold a director title, which is important as far as journeys. I never let that become like the thing, like, "Oh, I'm better than somebody." That's never the case. It's all about growing. It's all about always learning. And it's really that journey. And how do you get to apply that? The one thing that my journey's taught me is being adaptable, being flexible. Those all apply to operations and supply chain. You think about the
Wow.
environment of the last 5 years. We've had COVID that was quite disruptive to our supply chain. We've had different economic changes. If you think about tariffs, right? So being adaptable and being nimble is really important to a supply chain, to operations. And those that can do it better and faster are typically the ones that win. The ones that don't, they tend to lag and struggle. Um, and it may also because they're resilient to change.
Amazing. Resilient to change. Part of your journey is taking you to your outcome, and don't be change is, you cannot avoid change. Embrace it like he's done. And it's just amazing his journey. But let's come to auto parts, right?
Yep.
You have spent 8 years in auto parts. What has been your biggest challenge leading life cycle management at scale?
Yeah. The hardest thing is a tremendously long life cycle. When you think about vehicles and how long they're on the road, we think about not only how many vehicles are on the road and the different types and all of the different parts, but they become, you know, just in the last 8 years, they've become more complicated. You have things like stop start technology. You have things
Yep.
like, uh, electric vehicles, hybrids. So it's a constantly changing environment as far
Yeah.
as what your offering needs to be. 40 years ago, the same carburetor fit a bunch of cars. You could go put it on a Ford, you could go put it on a Chevy. Today, you might have a different set of brake pads for the same Honda Accord, right? So how do you manage all of those things? How do you take care of your customers and making sure you have the parts that they need to
Wow.
keep their car on the road? And then the hardest part, right? Everybody can bring it into their supply chain. It's how do you manage it out, right? As less and less of that car is on the road, how do you make sure you're managing that inventory out of your system so that you're not stuck with it? And I think that's
Right.
where a lot of not just auto parts, but even retailers, I think we see it with Target, where they've kind of struggled with inventory over the last 3 or 4 years, really after, call it, the COVID
Right.
boom. So
Yes.
it's not just a challenge for auto parts. We have some uniqueness because our life cycle is very different from, a traditional retailer like a Target. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge that I've had to experience, especially in the last few years, leading life cycle management.
So I'm just wondering, did that affect your bottom line? Like, what did you do with all this excess inventory? Because like the world that you're in, things are constantly changing and they're expensive. Because I assume parts are. I'm not very knowledgeable about that field in parts, but I assume they can be very expensive, right? So
Yes,
with
they
the
can.
constant change, how do you manage it? How do you keep the budget flowing and being profitable?
Yeah. So, I think it's no secret for advanced auto parts. We've struggled with that in comparison to our biggest competitors. If you think about like O'Reilly's or AutoZone, we've lagged behind, but we're getting better at it. And it it required us to change. It required us to really focus on what is our exit strategy? What are we gonna do? How do you use price? How do you use promotion?
Mm,
How do you consolidate? How do you liquidate as a last resort? So how do you use all of these levers to protect your bottom line and your top line, but also achieve those goals? And it's a collaborative give and take across the organization because we can't just chase one thing despite
mm,
our goal. I can't just give up all of the margin in the world so that I can get out of this stuff because it's really cheap. I use with my
true.
team and peers across my industry the example of hand sanitizer. Super big in COVID. We had, alcohol manufacturers, distillers shift their focus to make hand sanitizer. Well,
Mm,
now there was a year and a half ago, there was a surplus and it didn't really care. It didn't really matter what the price was. There was more supply than there is demand. So
yep.
how are you going to get out of that if you just have an abundance of something that doesn't have the demand of what you have? And you're not the only one. So how do you use all of these different levers to get out of it? You don't want to throw it away. That's always the last resort. And as I joke
Mm,
with my team and leaders, I said, you didn't hire me and you didn't put me in this role to just go throw things away. You could have got anybody to do that. So what are we going to do? How
amazing.
do we use price? How do we use all of these different things and really get creative? And that's one thing I've really enjoyed about this role is I get to bring my creativity from my entrepreneurial spirit to my day job. Because at the end of the
Wow.
day, and my boss knows this, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love it. I think
Wow.
that's my true passion, is entrepreneurship. And I'm fortunate that I also get to have that same type of impact in corporate America. I
Mm,
think when I think about my journey, Uh, I always felt like, wow, this is my first corporate job when I came to Advanced Auto Parts. I was like, that's why no one wants to take a chance on me. Like, what what have you done? I felt like I had done a lot. Sometimes as leaders, we get very caught up in what we're looking for in a perfect candidate, and we don't
Mm,
like gambling.
wow. I love it.
I hate gambling, but I love gambling on people. I
Yes.
love giving people a chance. I have a story I'd like to share about an intern I hired probably 5 years ago. He
Uh-huh.
didn't have any of the technical skills or anything else that we were particularly looking for that type of intern. But I was like,
Uh-huh.
let's hire him. Like, he is coachable. He wants to learn,
Um,
right? I think there's a big debate, aptitude versus attitude. I'll take anybody with a good attitude any day of the week. I think that's something that's part of my journey to is having the right attitude. We can teach anybody a skill. If you want to learn to be a brain surgeon, well, with through enough practice and training and all those things, we can get you there. But if you don't have
yes.
the attitude to want to be a brain surgeon, it doesn't matter how many dollars, how much training, or any of the other stuff. That's going to be the worst brain surgeon you ever seen because they don't want to do it.
I love what you just said. Attitude, attitude, attitude. And I want to talk to all the bosses, leaders, managers that are people leaders listening to us right now. What Mike said is something that just touched my soul because it's opposite to what a lot of leaders want to do. And for you to be a leader, you really have to love mankind. Okay. Just hearing him, you can sense the genuine love of human being. He said he can gamble with people. But he said there are some people have no skills, no talent, but they are coachable. They have the right attitude and they are willing to learn. And you succeed as a leader when you take someone like that and you make them, you package them to get to a positive outcome. That is all leadership in one sentence. The ability to influence people. If you focus only on getting the best candidate, the best, it's a good thing. But some of them, you cannot even communicate with them. Some of them are not coachable. There's something that says be careful on the people you bring in your boat because when they come to your boat and they realize that they can't do things their own way, they will sink your boat for you, right? So I'm so passionate about what he's saying on Time Coffee because that is leadership and I'm so passionate about that. So back to Michael. How do you balance corporate goals, right, with the reality of on-the-ground execution? Because AutoZone, I did in Atlanta when I go there, in Florida when I'm there, in Maryland, it's all over the place.
Yep.
So I assume they have their corporate goal. How do you balance that? The reason I'm asking this is because I had a podcast with someone else that the in between they're leading on the ground, and sometimes corporate might say something that you really don't align with. It doesn't really
Yep.
work for you on the ground. And I think leaders and people listening to us have to know because you've been extremely successful at what you do. And I really want to commend your employer for knowing that you're an entrepreneur and still giving you the platform because a lot of employers, I've been in a situation where once they find out that you're an employer or you have something, they're like, no, you cannot work for us. You don't have the time. You don't give us 100% of your time. It's really sad. But I really want to commend AutoZone for that. But how do you balance it? Corporate leadership on the ground execution.
Yeah. It's hard. It's also very frustrating for both sides, right? At the end of the day, I have leadership saying we need to do this, and then we have conflicts in execution and how we're going to actually do that. Is it even realistic? And something I pride myself on is that we need to do the right thing, and we need to do the right thing for our customer, for our stores, and for our organization. All three of those should be at the center of what we do. And if we focus on the right thing, we focus on the common goal, then we can get and figure out how to get there. And one thing that I really like focusing on is what is our common goal? Our common goal is as Advanced Auto Parts is to take care of our customer, take care of our frontline team members. And if we remember that at the center of everything we do, how we get there could change because we're constantly going to be in conflict of going and hitting a metric. We can go hit metrics all day long, but there's in my mind, there's a right way to get there and there's a wrong way. I want to get there through, you know, having a strong foundation, making sure that it's executionally possible. and understanding what I'm going to be asking of my partners and getting their buy-in and soliciting their feedback as well. Something that's really important to me, especially as a people leader, is I like surrounding myself with people with different experiences, different background, because they're going to give me a perspective that I don't have. If I have all of the people with the same experiences as me, they think the same way as me, we just are going to agree on everything. We find solutions in polite, professional discourse. And that's what makes us better. So while we have, say a corporate objective, how we get there could be different based on just having genuine conversation and saying, well, I think there's a better way to do this because it's going to make it more efficient for our stores to execute. Okay, great.
Amazing.
Well, then let's do it that way. So, you know, we don't always have to go down the path that's already paid for us. Sometimes there is a better way. And you might find that from anybody on your team or anybody in your peer group or a mentor, right? So being open to not always being right, especially as a leader, is really important.
Wow. You are dropping a lot of nuggets here. And a lot of us that are in corporate America, this show is to let you know that you can pivot right into entrepreneurship, but there are some baselines that you have to know. Some of the things that Michael mentioned is having an exit strategy. Some of the things he's talked about refocusing, re-strategizing, knowing your competitors. And right now, he really zoned in about the diversity of thinking, right? And getting people's buy-in. As a leader, as a mid-level leader, you're in between corporate America and your team. And I have a course on Udemy. It is called Cultivating a Result-Driven Team. How do you balance that? How are you able to look nice? Corporate, they're your leaders, they're your boss, and you are representing corporate in your role. You don't have to be right all the time, but the goal is to get the buy-in. The goal is to understand the diversity of thinking. The goal is to do the collaboration so you can work together with your team for one team to one goal. That is super amazing. And I can really tell how you can lead your team, especially being in that position, because it can be very challenging for a lot of leaders in that place. And this is going to help a lot of people know how to navigate, right? Don't go and tell your team the corporate is really bad. I don't like what they're doing. They keep changing things on me. I have worked with leaders that do the exact, just that.
Yeah. You have
If you do
to
that,
empathy.
yeah, go ahead. Wow.
Empathy, I think, right? You have to bring empathy every single day. You have to empathize with those who have to do the work, even if they're not on your team. You have to empathize with your team. And you also have to empathize with the pressures of your leader. Right? They didn't just ask you to do something because they were bored. Well, sometimes they might, but again, right, giving benefit of the doubt. So having empathy of the pressures that we're all under is really important. I have my own pressures. I try not to bring that baggage to my team. And I also try to understand, like, if I don't agree with my boss or leadership on something, I try to see it from, all right, well, what are the pressures that they're experiencing? We're in the midst of a turnaround, right? Our performance in the marketplace compared to our peer group has lagged. So, right, there are new challenges. There's pressures that our CEO has that I have no idea. And it could be why we're being asked to do things. So I try to take a step back from my personal feelings and empathize with that person. And that's going to help give me clarity on what we need to go do and how we're going to go execute it and how I also sell that to my team.
Wow. Empathy. It's amazing. Empathy. If all of us can just go out after this show and just empathize with our team, empathize with our employees, it's going to make a big difference because they connect with you before they connect with what you tell them to do. They connect with you before your vision, right? Everybody
Yep.
connects, few communicates. So we want to make sure that we are empathizing. Now, I want you to talk because you're pouring out a lot of amazing nuggets that we need on this Friday. I'm going to tap everything from you before you get out of this show today. Talking about people that dread going to work, right? They are very skilled. They are very confident in their abilities in what they do, but they just can't work is just annoying to them, maybe because of the leadership, maybe because of the company, maybe because what can you talk to them that what drives that feeling and how can they overcome it?
Yeah, I think people work for people. You have to remember that. And if you are struggling with your job and you hate it, really sit down and write down why. What do you hate about it? And do you hate it today? Or do you hate it every day? I have days where I'm like, wow, I really made a lot of bad decisions getting here. But that's just a feeling in the moment because I am really grateful. And I actually do love my job and what I get to do and how I get to contribute. But really write it down. Is this temporary or is this something that you're struggling with and it's not going to go away? If it's not going to go away, then life's too short for us to have jobs we hate. And if you hate it for years, like you're probably not having a very balanced life outside of that because our careers, our work, it consumes so much of our time that it's going to impact everything else in your life. And likewise, your personal life can also impact whether or not you're unhappy at work too. So you might hate your job and it's not even, it has nothing to do with your job. So,
Mm,
you know, control what you control, fix what you can. If your life
mm,
is great outside of work and everything's rainbows and you hate your job and you've hated it for a while, I would say, well, figure out, find out what your passion is. And
wow.
that might mean taking a leap of faith, right? I took a leap of faith 9 years ago to get into this organization and bet on yourself, right?
Wow.
Follow your passions. And it's an overused analogy of if you love your work, you never work a day in your life. That's somewhat true. But you
Somewhat, yes.
should enjoy your work. You should enjoy your job and
Yes.
don't get stuck being miserable. There is something for you. And you're just going to have to sit and reflect and think about what that is and
Yep.
decide, all right, that's my passion. Then go for it. Right. You
Exactly.
know, I've had failures in my career. You learn from them and you'll grow. It's again, failure's temporary if you allow it to be.
Right. And that is where personal analysis comes in. You have to pause and have time with yourself. You have to pause and ask yourself, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling? And that's exactly what he's saying. Take an analysis. What do I hate about this job? Is it the same today, tomorrow? Is it changing? What was it before? Am I seeing progress in this company? Is it getting better? Personal analysis, I think if you can just sit with yourself and ask those difficult questions to yourself, it's really going to help you make better decision. You again, like we talked about in another show yesterday, you will be responding without reacting. The last thing we want to do is to get our emotions talking. And I love the way he answered that question. He didn't say just leave. He said, ask yourself why. Why are you feeling that way? So now let's come to your business. We've talked about autopads and things like that. I know you already said from the beginning your journey, which was amazing from having your family's cafe at home and then now to going to autopads and back to your own entrepreneurship. And now, what have you really learned running your own business from? Did any skills from corporate America help you to pivot or to be a successful business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as a small business owner, you have to be nimble. You have to react quickly. You have to be decisive. And while those are all great things, sometimes, and what the corporate world, if you will, has taught me is sometimes you need to step back. Sometimes you need to
Mm,
be a little bit slower to adopt
mm,
and you need to be strategic and you need to think about the long term and you need to
mm,
think about the overall benefit. Am I doing something that solves a really small problem? Or am I doing
mm,
something that's going to solve a problem that will grow into something bigger? And I think the
mm,
corporate environment really is, depending on your levels of engagement, forces you to think about not just the now, but also the tomorrow and the year after and the 5 year plan, right? I have
mm.
strategic roadmaps that I have to build out that are 5 years long. I would never do that for my small businesses. It's more of like, right? It teaches you, I would call it survival versus longevity. In small business, some days, and I don't know if there's any small business listeners, right? It feels
Yeah.
like you all every day you're just trying to survive. And I have a lot of friends and mentors that also have small businesses. And something that's always resonated with me that some of them say is you can't let your business run yourself, run you. You have
Mm,
to run your business. And that's super applicable to the corporate America environment, if you will. If you're always
mhm.
chasing, you're never getting better. And I've had periods where we've had great success in our businesses, and we've also had not been as successful as years past. And it's forces you to sit back and go, all right, well, I missed that. I really need to think about the future, not just now, or even becoming complacent because things are good.
Amazing. Wow. Survival versus longevity, guys. Business owners that are listening to us, remember that. We are going to be wrapping up soon, but we have one more question to ask him before we will close with the lesson. And then he said, don't let your business run you. Guys, I come to learn. It's my show. I always, by the time I'm done, I always have a whole, because I am coachable. I am teachable, and I also want to grow myself. And that's the whole reason we have positive outcomes, right? Whatever we come here, whatever we listen to, let's take it and go and apply it in our businesses, in our jobs, so that we can get to our positive outcomes. So I want to ask Mike, how do you really navigate the operations of your role as the director at Auto? Is it Autopad or AutoZone? They both of them I get confused.
Advanced auto parts. Yes, everybody gets them confused.
Advanced
That's one
Auto,
of our brand
Advanced Auto,
problems.
yes.
Yeah, advanced auto parts.
Advanced Auto Pads. How do you manage that with your business? Is it the same business hours? You have good leaders at your own business that you trust. How are you managing both of them?
I have great teams in both of my worlds. I have a great team at Advanced Auto Parts. I've had the pleasure of working with most of them since the time I started, so I know them very well. But I have a great team for my call it 9 to 5, if you will. And I also have great partners in my small businesses. I have people that I can trust, people that I can rely on in all aspects, and not just work. I in my personal life, I also have the same, right? It's your success is not one dimensional. We see so many people that are successful from a business aspect or corporate America, but it's one dimensional success, right? It's finding a great balance. I have great partners, I have great teams in all aspects of my personal life and my corporate and my entrepreneurial life that allows me to juggle all of this. If I did it, I couldn't. There's no possible way because one person can't do anything by themselves when you can do a job by yourself, but it takes a village, if you will, to be successful in all aspects of work, life, personal, all that good stuff. So I have amazing teams. And I would say it's because I'm also invested in them. Their successes are my successes.
Wow. 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 Great team. Team. He talked about that from the beginning. The people. Invest in your people. Invest in your people. Delegate and don't micromanage. Because some of us would delegate and then we are on their case and annoying them. Can you show me? Did you do this? Can I see it? Delegate and don't micromanage. Trust. And when you trust them, they know you trust them. They will do the work. Okay. And that is super amazing. Running two businesses. I mean, working in corporate America, running your businesses, he trusts that his team is going to do the work because he has invested in them. And also the team trusts him. So that is just super encouraging for a lot of us because Mike, I'll tell you for sure, a lot of people are here between jobs, right? Like I said, they want to use their expertise. They want to open a business, but they are in corporate America because those are my clients. Those are the people I consult. Well, those are the people that I help build their consulting companies or coaching businesses. And they are very concerned about how am I going to do this? The first thing you share is that we are really appreciative of Advanced Auto Parts to know that you're doing it and let you do it. But again, it's because you've earned your trust, you're a hard worker, and you've invested in growing in the company. And then the other thing is that pivoting to doing that, how will they do that? Are they going to be able to manage both of them? Those are some of the questions that I get every day from our listeners and from the people that I work one-on-one with. And I think that this is really going to really help them to understand certain things about coaching, people leadership, strategy, knowing your competitors, understanding your employer, high performing, be highly productive. All of that stuff that you said today, I think is really going to help us. So, Mike, before we wrap up on this call, and you will give us some lesson learned at the end of this, some life lessons that will take us to positive outcomes. Do you have anything to offer for the people, for the masses, and how do they contact you?
Yeah. Yeah, you can contact me via email if you want to reach out. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Mike Triggiano Jr. You'll be able to figure it out because of the picture. My father's also on LinkedIn, so feel free to shoot him a note too. I'm sure he'd be really excited. I know my one life lesson that I'd share and leave everyone with as we close is enjoy the journey. It's not always fun. It's not always enjoyable, and sometimes it's really hard. So, those of you that are thinking about following your passion, do it. Will it be easy? No. I'll tell you right now, it's not. But enjoy the hard days, and it will make the easier days, the successful days, even more enjoyable. You have something to share with others, you have something to share with your teams, and it will fulfill you, right? The journey is so important, and don't get lost on the destination.
Wow, 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 wow. Don't get lost on the destination, guys. Do not be so attached to the outcome. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Because when you get so attached to the outcome of what will happen, you're not going to enjoy the moment. Enjoy the journey. What a lesson learned today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Please go ahead and share and share and share so that other leaders and executives and entrepreneurs and business owners can come and learn and grow how they can use their expertise to generate income, impact, and freedom. Michael, thank you so much for coming to Positive Outcomes. We have learned a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You are definitely welcome. Hey guys, bye. Until next time, please, we want to encourage you to go ahead and share, share, share. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Positive Outcomes. Follow the show and share this episode to inspire someone's next chapter.